So today I'm going to talk about sleep and emotional regulation. So when I was doing selection, one of the tools that they use is to deprive people of sleep. So they deprived us of sleep, or me of sleep, when I was doing it, so that they can start to really draw down and expose your raw personality. So they can have a look at how you respond when you're under pressure, when you're in a sort of basic survival instinct, how you regulate your anger, how you respond to threat or pressure, how you interact with other people when they're starting to get angry, how you regulate those relationships, how you interact with a team that's under pressure, how you work within a team that is sleep deprived, everyone is on edge, and how you sort of work to make sure that you're still being cohesive and working within, getting the most out of both yourself and everyone around you. So sleep deprivation is a tool that they use to try and expose those raw elements of a human being. And when I was doing selection, there would be times where it would be really late at night and we were sort of starting to get frustrated with things. Nothing ever goes to plan on these things. They deliberately try and derail you to see how you respond, and by the end of the day you'd be working really hard to make sure that you're regulating your level of emotion and working within the team to get what you needed done. And then you would sleep. The next morning you'd wake up and you'd feel quite fresh. So you cannot go on and function normally like this on sort of 2 to 4 hours sleep or no sleep for 24 hours, because it's just not healthy. So regardless of a sort of health and well-being perspective, when we sleep, there's a proportion of our sleep where we're sort of in this sort of more wakefulness stage, or stage 2 types of sleep, where it's more cognitive restoration or emotional reconciliation, where during these periods of our sleep we have the neural connections, we sort of store short-term memory into long-term memory, we start to go through and reconcile all the interactions and all the emotional, the negative interpersonal relationships that we've had from that day. We reconcile those going into the previous day, and we sort of wipe our slate clean so that we can start from a baseline level the next day. If we're not getting enough sleep, or our sleep's interrupted, particularly in our second half of sleep, then we're going to carry a lot of that baggage from the previous day forward into our current day. And if we carry that forward, then we're going to present as being a little bit more negatively primed or negatively emotional to other people. So we're going to look like we're sort of unapproachable, we're going to look like we're sort of got these negative emotional states around us, and that can actually impact their emotional response to us. And everyone would have seen it when someone comes in and they haven't slept very well, or they look really fatigued. You're also always a little bit cautious because they look like they're a little bit on edge, or they look like that they're sort of in a negative emotional state. So we then respond to that because we're prepared for any potential conflict. So if we're not getting enough sleep, then we're not getting enough of this emotional reconciliation, and we're carrying emotion forward from one day to the next, and we're negatively primed. So when we are in these sort of fatigue states, we're more likely to see threat where there is no threat. So we may see neutral emotions with another human being as threatening emotions towards us. And because a lot of what we do is reading non-verbal communication, we're going to see a lot of this body language and facial expressions as potentially slightly threatening, when in reality it is not, just because we're in a fatigue state or we haven't slept. And one of the other things when we identify too much threat within our environment, or we perceive threat within our environment and we're fatigued, is that we're more likely to try and avoid that threat. So we're less likely to take on difficult tasks or confront challenges or get into sort of very robust discussions with people, because we just don't perceive that we've got the energy to do it, because we're in more of a survival state because we're fatigued. So if we're not sort of getting our 7 to 9 hours sleep over extended periods or routinely, then we're going to be in a negative state most of our life, and that's going to lead to a lot of depression, okay? And that's going to lead to a lot of feelings of depression, and that's going to reduce our resilience, and it's going to reduce our mental strength. So if we want to increase our mental strength and resilience, then sometimes it might just be having a look at our sleep routine or our sleep habits. If we can improve our sleep so that we're getting 7 to 9 hours, then we're going to reconcile these emotions. We're going to cut off the emotions from one day into the next. We're not going to drag that forward. And we're also going to be in a better position to perceive emotions and stimulus within our environment than what we would if we were sleep deprived. So one of the key things that we can do is make sure that we're getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, make sure we've got a good routine, and then we're going to be in a much better position to clear away a lot of the clutter and a lot of the controllables that we can control to put us in a state where we're going to have better resilience, we're going to have mental strength or better mental strength, and then we're going to be able to look for challenge as we go forward throughout our day. So I hope that helps, and sleep's a really big factor, and there's a number of other factors related to it, but I just wanted to discuss sleep and emotional reconciliation and how that important that is to us for improving our resilience, our mental strength, reducing sort of feelings of negative mental states and depression, and reducing a lot of the friction we might be having in our environment just because we've underslept and we're perceiving things incorrectly.